Hello and welcome back to Hellbound Garage. If you watched the last couple of videos, you probably know what we're doing today. But if you're new around here, this is my 1975 Datsun 280Z that I am pushing really hard to get running and driving by wintertime because I have a few life events going on that I'm not entirely sure how much time I'm going to be able to spend in the garage after those happen. So, we're going to be focusing on the engine bay once again today. With this video, you should see all the seams in the engine bay being seam sealed, as well as primer being laid down on the car. And whether or not I win my internal battle with myself, we may be painting the engine bay with actual paint and not just primer. But this car does have to be in the air and put back on a rotisserie to have some things done on the underside of it. So I may not do the engine bay paint just because the attachment points on the car are where part of it's going to be painted. So we'll see if I decide to paint it or not. We'll at least get primer on it. The last few days we have been hit with a massive heat wave, but heat I'm good with. But along with that heat wave, we've also had a massive increase in humidity. And well, if you can kind of tell, the engine bay is half bare metal, so that's definitely not good when seam sealing and laying down primer, because you can trap moisture in behind those things. So, but if it sits here and I do nothing to it, moisture is going to get into the metal either way. So we're going to push forward. We're going to use chemicals to make sure that there's as little moisture as possible in the metal as we lay down the seam sealer and the primer, just to make sure that it prolongs the life of the metal and make sure that rust doesn't happen at any time in the near future. As you can see, I've already finished taping off all the seam areas in the engine bay that I'm going to be hitting with seam sealer. And the tape is just to make sure that when I go and smear the seam sealer smooth, that there's a nice line and it's just not jagged. Underneath the car, there's seam sealer that kind of looks like that, which is more of a factory style look to seam sealer. But because this is an engine bay and you're going to be seeing it a little bit more, it's just nice to have that nice, clean, crisp line, especially because there will be paint over top of it. This is the seam sealer that I'm going to be using in the engine bay. It's Excel Auto Body Products seam sealer in black. They do have gray and tan also. This stuff, at least at my local body shop, they had this. I've used the SEM product, and there's also, I don't remember the exact name of it, but it is the one that is Advanced Auto Parts. I've used all three seam sealers on this car because every time I go to do this, I grossly underestimate how much of this stuff I need. And most of the time, it's during the weekend that I'm using this stuff. And my auto body shop closes at like 5 o'clock on Friday. So if I buy some of this stuff and then run out, then I end up using, product that I can find elsewhere to make sure I get far enough in my project. That being said, I really haven't noticed too much of a difference between the three products on how they lay on the metal. All three seem to do the job just fine. I was originally going to stick to only using the SEM product because, it's a name brand product. Like, everybody uses it. It's got a good reputation. But this stuff here comes in at, I think, $10 less a tube, and when you're using a whole lot of it on this car or any project, it adds up really quick. So if you can find a product like this that does the same job, same quality for the most part, at half the cost, it's kind of a no-brainer. But anyways, one last thing, just like with paint in engine bays, we're going to start from the firewall and work our way out. That way there is as little possibility of messing up the seam sealer that we've already laid, as well as, you know, us backing into it or anything like that. In this particular case, I'm going to start with this side, work my way out, and then it should start to cure, and then we'll start on this side and work our way out here. This side's going to be a lot more work because of the panel for everything for the driver's side. Either way, it's got to get done.
I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I got eyes in the back of my head, I'm seeing. Take me for granted and you know I'm leaving. I'ma take what's mine with the webs I'm weaving. I could take this crowd from seeing to believing. Got a taste for blood and my tongue keeps bleeding from the words I spit. So sharp, so freezing, so cold. Behold, frostbite they feeling. I could tear you apart or I could go heal them. Don't believe in fate, don't believe in ceilings. I just need a taste and my mind starts peeling. I don't pace myself, I grind on kneeling. Got lust for change, I just love the feeling. I ain't gonna give up. Got too little time, I'ma live up. Head down, push forward through the tough times. Cause anything worth doing is a tough climb. And I ain't gonna give up. Got too little time, I'ma live up. Head down, push forward through the tough times. Cause anything worth doing is a tough climb. Cause I'ma live life for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I go by at night, I be in my feelings. I'ma be fine, need time and I'll soon be winning. I live life for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I go by at night, I be in my feelings. I'ma be fine, need time and I'll soon be winning. I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. Hey kid, don't ever let them get inside your head. They'll tell you what to do in life instead of everything you know that you could get. Don't let them guide your life towards regret. I'll fight for what I love with every breath. My past is filled with things I won't forget. I use them all to push me to my best. So treat the worst of times just like a test. If only I could go back in time, I'd tell myself that everything will end up alright. Just push yourself, test yourself, figure out what you like, and find your limits, don't be rigid, always work towards a prime. Surround yourself with open minds, people can change your life. A few friends with intent can help you feel alive. Find a passion, take some action, and with a little time, just be patient, make a statement, try to enjoy your life. They'll try to kick you while you're down. They wanna rise up while you drown. They wanna fill your head with doubt. They're silently scared that you'll figure it out. I'll make it look like I'm losing, won't bother hiding my bruises. And when they finally think you're wounded, then it's your chance to be ruthless. I can see that they compare. I think everyone's against me, maybe something in the air. Am I paranoid? I swear a void is forming and they're scared. I walk a straight path, not many can say that. I like to play fast, cross me and there's payback. You better pray that I don't see your face at any place that I go. I know you hate that. I've been doing fine, I'm not wasting any more time. I live for the fight and the climb, and I think that the pain that's deep inside is what defines. So I won't give up, I'm gonna make it to the top. I don't care what's in my way, I swear I'm never gonna stop. I could fall flat on my face and I swear I will get back up. Cause I don't deserve a thing and the road ahead is tough. They'll try to kick you while you're down. They wanna rise up while you drown. They wanna fill your head with doubt. They're silently scared that you'll figure it out. I'll make it look like I'm losing, won't bother hiding my bruises. And when they finally think you're wounded, then it's your chance to be ruthless.
Like that, we've got one side completed, and we can move on to the next side, and with a snap of my fingers, that'll be done. Both sides all seam sealed, and it is now curing. It's kind of nice that with the tape and how everything was laid out, even though there is a lot of seam sealer because of the size of the engine bay and everything, it turned out pretty well, and it doesn't look crazy terrible in here, which I was partly worried about with all the seams that are in the engine bay, but it turned out pretty good. It is currently pretty late at night, so we are going to let this cure overnight and then come back in the morning and start prepping the garage to hopefully spray some primer tomorrow. They do say that you can like work seam sealer in like 15 minutes, I think is what it said on the back of it, but I'm not entirely sure that I would even try and push that, just with the temperatures and humidity in the Midwest. So we're just gonna let it dry overnight, and we'll start fresh in the morning. Well, we came back after the night, and well, you can kind of see things have changed a little bit. I came through and checked all this stuff. The seam sealer was nice and tacked up. It was good to go. I then took the opportunity, well, you can't really see it right now because of what's going on, but I took the opportunity to clean my garage. It still had tools and stuff left over from when I welded in the plates and ground all that stuff down and got rid of all the seam sealer and everything. So the garage was just a general mess. So I took the opportunity to clean it all. The saving grace of the whole deal was that guy right there. Best purchase I've made in a long time. Not only is it good for yard work, it's good for car work. As long as you don't have like garbage and stuff laying all over your floor, that makes life easier. You can blow out all the dust. Mother Nature kind of hates my garage. It's been around long enough that like the concrete and stuff is all settled and cracked, and like the doors don't seal right. So I get dirt in here naturally, and then because of where it sits and the fact that the neighbor's got a privacy fence set up, a lot of wind like turbulates in front of the garage and blows straight into the garage. So it's really hard to keep this place clean to begin with. So that helps. Otherwise I'd be in here for hours trying to get all the dust out. But as you can tell, I taped up everything, and we're getting ready to spray some primer. And you like my redneck paint booth here? It actually has decent airflow. With this big fan and the window that's back here, it actually has a pretty good breeze. The breeze has been going by itself most of the days, and then, or by most of the day, and then the fan helps it more and it pulls air out of the door. So I got a pretty good natural flow in here, which is kind of what you want. When you're painting, you don't want the spray to be in the air, atomized, laying all over places, because that's how you get overspray. So we get to do primer, yay! This is the primer that we're going to be spraying. It is a 4-to-1 DTM Epoxy Primer by Speedcoat. When I was looking up epoxy primers, when I had originally tried to blast this car myself, this had extremely good reviews, so I ended up buying it. This isn't actually its original intended purpose, but this actually works out pretty well. Being just a quart, it should be plenty to cover the engine bay. It does need 2 coats, and it'll take about 15 minutes per coat. That's the flash time. That way everything will cure correctly. And lo and behold, this is going to be the gun that we're going to try spraying this stuff with. It is just the Harbor Freight cheapy gun with a regulator and filter. And then I went out and they released their own line of like speed cups or whatever you want to call them. It makes it so you don't have to clean this guy every time you paint. It comes with 4 of these cups with liners in them, and it's got the measurements on the side so you can mix everything into it and get all your right mixtures. Pop this filtered top onto it and then pop it onto here, and then when you're done you can pop it right off. And if the paint that you're using has like a good mixture time after you've added all the hardener or the catalyst, then you can save it in here and it won't dry out because it has a cap. But I've already cleaned this gun out, followed the instructions, pulled the adjuster needle out or whatever you want to call it, pulled the caps, ran cleaner through all of it, adjusted the trigger, so hopefully everything goes good. Otherwise you'll find out on video. One more thing before I mix everything up and get the white monkey suit on and start spraying is the way that I'm going to spray this engine bay is I'm going to start with the areas that are underneath right here, try and get up inside of it the best I can, and then I'll hit the corners where there's brackets and I'll try and get up underneath those and coat those 4 spots first because they're the hardest parts to get to. And then we'll start spraying the firewall, and then we'll work our way out just so we don't run into anything, and hopefully that will give us the best results. So anyways, let me go mix this stuff up and get my white monkey suit on and we'll get started. Hi, I was going through all the editing of the video and putting it all together, and I did forget to mention that before I started spraying, I did do a final wipe down with acetone. You can do it with like a wax and degreaser, but I just have acetone, so that's what I'm using. And then I also went through and used a tack cloth to make sure the surface was as clean and as smooth as possible before starting to spray any kind of primer.
One shot to the head, I need a blank space. 'Cause everything is a threat, but I never back down, man,
have it. That was the first coat, and it turned out pretty well. I did have some adjustment issues. This stuff is thick. I mean, it's like syrup thick, and I made the mistake of not filtering it, which was an oopsie, seeing the filter cones were sitting right there, and I just didn't use them. Chalk it up to my first time using this stuff. As you can tell, I messed with this thing a lot, trying to get the fan to work, trying to get it to spray right, trying for it to not take forever to come out of the nozzle. It was definitely a nightmare. The rounder it got, because of the amount in one spot, it came out a little bit faster and coated a little better, but it still took a lot of adjustment to get it to where it would work properly. Turned out good, you know, just fiddling around with it, and then the more I do it, the better I'll get. Anyways, we're gonna let this sit for a few minutes, and then I will go on to my second coat. Second coat didn't go as planned. I know that, you know, smaller compressors, they take time to catch up and work, which is why I have a HLVP type gun for that lower size tank. That way it doesn't have to work as hard, but we ended up with an issue. As smaller compressors got to work more to get the same amount of air as like a two-stage air compressor, they build up heat, and when they build up heat, they build up moisture, and with the fact that we've been dealing with a lot of moisture around here lately, we ended up with water in the second coat. You see that graininess there? That is what happens when there is water in the paint. So now I'm gonna have to wait for that to dry, sand it down, and try again. It really sucks. I should have just left it at one coat, seeing I'm going to spray high build primer on this anyways. I just noticed that the black showed some of the filler areas a little bit more than what I really would like, and I've already gone through all this trouble of prepping and trying to use a spray gun. You know, why not try and make it as good as I can? So it's unfortunate because now I have to wait for it to dry. Hopefully the primer that I don't already have mixed up in the cup that is sitting inside doesn't harden before I get to using it, because it is sealed, but it has the catalyst in it, so I don't know. But either way, we'll get this taken care of, and we'll spray a second coat, or, you know, I'll just order the high build primer and we'll just go from there. It is a completely new day. Last night I was really discouraged. I was super mad. I kept pacing. I kept going in and out of the house trying to wait for this all to dry. And I finally had to say enough and completely left the house and did some other things. Came back after that was done. And for the most part, my disaster was dry enough that I could sand it down. There was a couple of spots that were still really soft, and I'm going to guess it was because of the water that was in it. But after doing a little bit of research and seeing how long the catalyst was going to allow me to keep that epoxy primer before it like hardened up or became non-usable, I realized that it didn't have a crazy amount of time. And believe it or not, a quart of epoxy primer is good for about 2 coats in the engine bay. So I literally had to use the stuff that I had. Otherwise, I would have to order more epoxy primer specifically for this, and I really didn't want to do that. Epoxy primer for other parts of the car, sure, but just to have to redo the engine bay, didn't like that idea. So I sanded everything down, and I managed to get the second coat sprayed. And overall, I would have to say that it turned out pretty good. There is still a little bit of rough spots in that area. A little bit of it was from the epoxy primer, and then I have to remember that I didn't completely straighten everything in that corner, so there's still a little bit of pitting from the battery acid etching that has occurred over the last 40 years, but way better than what it was last night when I had the water enter the system. So over there, I did have kind of a weird orange peely. I'm not sure if you can see that in there. I'm not really sure what happened there, but it's going to be okay because I have decided to spray this whole engine bay with a high build primer just to smooth it out a little bit more, just to see what can happen. I mean, at this point, it's sealed, it's covered. A lot of people would probably say it's good and just move on. But like I said, I've already come this far down the rabbit hole. I might as well give it a shot because it's going to help me along the other parts of the car, like the interior and the exterior when I finally get to that point. So, but I have to order all that stuff, so that's going to end this one here, because it's going to take 3-ish days to get the primer, and I'm going to let this sit and cure completely, and then hit it with some either red Scotch-Brite or some fine sandpaper, just to kind of knock down some of the high spots and give it a nice surface for the new high build primer to adhere to. So anyways, thank you for watching. There's definitely a learning curve to this whole thing, and the frustration with the limitations of the tools that I have is definitely a thing. I have my house being rewired hopefully soon, and that'll allow me to run a bigger compressor and hard lines and everything else, so that way I don't have this issue anymore. It's just one of those things that until I get a dual stage, big tank, air compressor, this could be a potential problem. So I'll just have to keep that in mind. But anyways, thank you for watching. Until next time. Hi, editor version of me here. I know I am terrible at showing emotions a lot of times, and especially in stressful situations, like I kind of shut down and you don't really see it on my face, but the amount of excitement I have right now for the fact that this engine bay is even just in one color is over the roof. You get lost in the process of how everything starts, where you're going, and you can get really like depressed, really unmotivated to be able to continue. But the product, even though this isn't the final version, this product here is enough to get that excitement and that motivation back on track.